More coming up right after this short break. 200 busloads from Philly can't be wrong. Ashburn and Schmidt are next.
When we prepare the copy that goes on the Hall of Fame plaques, we only have a certain amount of space to work with. Our next inductee accommodated our needs quite nicely. He had no nickname. He only played for one team. Thus, we had ample room to list his accomplishments, and believe me, we needed all of it. Mike Schmidt could hit, run, and field with the best of them. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Schmidt. Philadelphia National League, 1972 to 1989. Unprecedented combination of power and defense with unusual mixture of strength, coordination, and speed made him one of the game's greatest third basemen. Seventh on all-time list with 548 homers. His 8 home run titles, one tie, betted only by Babe Ruth. Belted 40 or more on 3 occasions and topped 30 10 other times. 48 home runs in 1980, most ever by a third baseman. Hit 4 in one game in 1976. 3-time most valuable player with 10 Gold Glove awards for fielding excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Schmidt.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful. Thank you. What a great day. I only wish that all of you out there could stand right here and see what I'm looking at. It's truly amazing. Thank you. Baseball dignitaries, Hall of Famers, wake up guys, it won't be long, and fans. I'd first like to offer my congratulations, of course, to Bob Wolf, the family of the late Leon Day, William Hulbert, Vic Willis, and of course, Richie. Richie, I'm so pleased to be able to share this day with you. As a player, you truly had a Hall of Fame career. I know that because I had your baseball cards. Just kidding. And it's wonderful that you finally received the credit. My family and I congratulate you for an honor that's long overdue. And I want to personally thank you, Andy Musser, Chris Wheeler, and our close friend Harry Callis for all your support over the years. I really do stand before you a man that's totally humbled by the magnitude of this entire experience. It's unbelievable. To be honored at this historic annual baseball ritual is truly the finishing touch on what was an extremely rewarding career. To my friends, baseball dignitaries, and most of all you loyal fans and your families who've traveled many miles to be here, I'm honored and flattered that you came to Cooperstown. Back in January, a friend of mine put this whole honor in perfect perspective for me. He said, "Mike, do you realize what being in the Hall of Fame means? It means your life and your career have been immortalized. They'll be remembered forever." I said to him, "Does that mean I'm immortal?" He said, "No, Mike, it means your name is immortalized. There is a difference." When I thought of it in that way, I had a great new appreciation for the magnitude of this whole thing. For months, I've been thinking about how to approach this speech. I wanted to come up with something from my heart, based on the 20 years that I played the game. I could not approach it simply as an acceptance speech. Considering the times we are in, I felt I had to deliver some sort of message. So often, we hear the words pride and proud used when a player reflects on his success. Yeah, I know I'm often guilty of giving myself too much credit for my accomplishments. In fact, there isn't one man up here on this stage who'd be here if it weren't for the talent and sacrifices of other people along the way. Today, if you'll bear with me, I want to acknowledge and thank many of those people who made my career possible. The chain of friends, coaches, and family who each in a special way made it possible for me to reach this field of dreams. So if you'll indulge me, I'd like to recognize some of these people. I'm a Daytonian. Are there any people from Dayton in the audience? Yeah, I see there's a couple of them out there. Cooperstown's a tough place to get to, I know. My mom, I told you should have closed Phillips Aquatic Club today so everyone in Dayton could make it here. My career began in my backyard when I was 3 years old. My grandmother Schmidt used to pitch me a tennis ball and I'd whack it with a broomstick into the neighbor's yard. As I got older into organized baseball, in addition to driving me to games on the weekends, her thing was to tailor my uniforms. To tailor them so they just fit like her heroes, whose poster she had on her bedroom wall. Red second baseman Pete Rose. She passed away in 1980 before we won the World Series, but not before her hero and I became teammates and friends in 1979. I joined her and millions of baseball fans around the world in hoping that someday soon, someday very soon, Pete Rose will be standing right here. I know you all agree with me on that one. It's great that we see eye to eye on something, isn't it, Philadelphia? Pete stood for winning. We all know that. My first experience on a winning team was in the 1950s. We're back in Little League. I learned about discipline and teamwork from a coach named Jack Fenner. In high school, I was introduced to words that became my credo: sacrifice and hard work, by Dave Palsgrove. One summer, my baseball dreams almost ended. In fact, it was 1968, after my freshman year at Ohio University. I had to face the reality back then that I simply wasn't good enough at this game to make any team in Dayton, Ohio. But thanks to Ted Mills, a great baseball man back then, he gave me a chance to play. It was on that team that I met a man named Tom Smith, who became my future OU teammate, roommate, and best friend. Tom and I were inseparable through those years. Together we chased a dream of someday playing professional baseball. If there's one man that I could single out as having the most to do with me becoming a Hall of Famer, it would be Bob Wren, my baseball coach at Ohio University. He took me, a walk-on athlete at Ohio University, and developed me into an All-American in 2 years. He provided me with a baseball foundation that I relied upon as a pro and still use today as a high school baseball coach. A scout who once said he found me in Little League stayed with me through high school and college when no other scouts were interested in me. The late Tony Lucadello. convinced the Phillies to draft me in 1971. Early in my career, I received support from behind the scenes. You know, in those meetings when young players' futures are hanging in the balance? Great baseball men like Paul Owens, Andy Semenuk, Cal Emery, and late Granny Hamner, a friend of Richie's I know, were all in my corner when I needed them. You know, life for me was not always baseball. There was God, family, and there were real people guys who come on once in a lifetime. A guy who I'll always consider my closest friend from baseball, Garry Maddox. Along with Garry and the counseling of Wendell Kempton, Andre Thornton, Pat Williams, I found and committed my life to what is the real foundation for living, Jesus Christ. Few players these days remain with the same team throughout their career. Thanks to Phillies owners Ruly Carpenter and Bill Giles, I was able to establish a secure home in Philadelphia for my family throughout my career. I'll always be grateful to these men, especially Bill Giles, for their dedication, their character, and their love of the game. I'd like for Bill, who stood already, and Ruly Carpenter, if you're over there, please stand up for a second and be recognized. These are two great baseball men who I owe a lot to. Now more than ever, baseball needs more men like Bill Carpenter and Ruly Giles. I'd also like to congratulate Lee Thomas and the Philadelphia Phillies for all their success in the recent years. We're going through some tough times right now, but we'll bounce out of it. I wish you the best the rest of the year. Managers, I played for several real good ones. There's no question about that. They have a tremendous effect on a player's career. My first 7 years with the Phillies, Danny Ozark was our manager, and he accepted me as his personal project. In fact, he wanted to trade me for a load of pumpkins. Danny, I know we had some tough times, but I'll never forget the positive influence you had on my career. And then there was Dallas Green in 1980, our championship year. He pushed myself and my teammates to new heights, and we'll never forget that 1980 year. I'll also never forget Phillies coaches Bobby Wine and Mike Ryan. Those guys never objected to hours and hours of throwing me batting practice. My aches and pains were readily attended to by Don Seeger, Jeff Cooper, and the Phillies training staff. Gus Heffling and Pat Croce, two people you haven't heard much about, they taught me the value of training my body in the off-season, which may have been the most important professional commitment that I ever made. The Phillies are a family, a dedicated family with people behind the scenes who were wonderful to me. People like Larry Shank and his PR staff, Kenny Bush, Pete Cira, and all the home clubhouse staff over the years. And what about the Phillies fans? I know you're out there. I know you are. I've seen your caps. I've seen your license plates. I've seen your cars. I've seen your smiling faces for the past 3 days. You, in fact, have stretched the city limits of Philadelphia all the way to Cooperstown. It's unbelievable. I know you know this, that everywhere I go, I'm asked about you fans. I'm asked about what it was like to play in Philadelphia. Let me say this and make it as short and sweet as I possibly can. If I had it to do all over again, I'd do it in Philly. If I had it to do all over again, the only thing I would change would be me. I'd be less sensitive. I'd be more outgoing. I'd be more appreciative of what you expected of me. My relationships with Philadelphia fans has always been misunderstood. Can we put that to rest here today? I and my family sure hope that we can. Sure, there were tough nights and tough games at Vet Stadium. You got to realize that that's the nature of the sport we played. But I remember most your cheers of anticipation as I would come to the plate for a big at-bat, the curtain calls after big home runs, and that number 20, along with these other three guys being hung on the outfield wall at Vet Stadium forever. And that's the bottom line. Just like today, you're here. Back then you were there, and I know you care. And for that, I thank you. There are two special men in my life. Although they're not related to me, I consider them family. Because of their personal, business, and financial counsel, they've enabled my family to enjoy a secure life off the field. Arthur Rosenberg, who handled all of my financial affairs for the past 15 years, and Paul Shapiro, who along with Arthur, negotiated all of my Phillies contracts. Also a special member of Arthur's organization, my sister-in-law and executive secretary, Joyce Christensen. I want to thank you all for all you've done for me. We all know that there's no substitute in life for family. I could have not asked for a more closely knit, supportive, loving family environment, growing up both as a young man and a married professional athlete. Mom, Dad, Sally, Ron, Jess, John, and my best friend, my wife, Donna. Will you stand? My greatest gift of all is to have you all healthy and able to share in this honor with me. In preparing this speech, I thought of some lessons I learned from my baseball career. Lessons like having patience and dealing with pressure, teamwork and unselfishness. Heaven knows we have to learn to deal with failure as baseball players. Establishing that goals can only be attained through sacrifice and hard work. And an important lesson I recently learned from my young son, John. And a lot of these guys knew this throughout their careers, but I'm not sure that I ever did. That baseball can actually be played for fun. For me, there's an important lesson I want to emphasize. And it's a lesson that not only parents, coaches, and players at all levels should hear, but it's a lesson that I want to make part of my own personal life as well. This lesson wasn't a part of a big home run or a big victory. This lesson started back in 1971 when a player named Bob Boone, who I'd never met before at the time, went out of his way and said to me, "Mike, nice hitting," as my home run for the Philadelphia Phillies big league club beat Bob's Reading Phillies farm team. You know, it was my first sense that I had a friend in professional baseball. It occurred again in 1974 when that highly respected player, Dave Cash, told me, and more importantly, he told all of my teammates and my manager that I was a player when everyone else was doubting my ability. Again in 1976, Dick Allen took me aside before a game in Chicago and said to me, "Mike, let's go out and have some fun today. No matter what the outcome, enjoy the sunshine, the crowd. Wrigley Field's a beautiful place." And I went out and hit 4 straight home runs. And finally, it occurred for me every day. It occurred every day from 1979 to 1983 when the greatest hitter ever, Pete Rose, started telling me, "Mike, you're the best player I ever played with." Those 4 guys molded my career with the magic of motivation. No matter who we are or where we play, from Little League to the big leagues, we're human. We need positive reinforcement. So let the motivation that I experienced in my career be a lesson to all you parents and coaches out there. Our kids need confidence. They need self-esteem, and in some cases, that's all they need. Let's all start balancing our scales with more positive reinforcement. Words of encouragement at the right time for our kids and from the right person can be more powerful and more enduring than any trophy you might give them. I assure you, without those 4 guys and the words of encouragement from me at the right time, I would not be standing here today. Before I close, I'd like to say one thing, that I considered playing professional baseball a privilege. a privilege that's granted to only a few men. It's my sense that many of today's players are taking that privilege for granted. A game that at one time was steeped with passion, humility, and respect for the opposition has now given way to a look at me, in-your-face attitude. You know, this attitude is supported and commercialized by television. And I must add, it's highly suspect in its impact on our youth. Because I fear the impact of this attitude, I want to use this opportunity to warn the current generation of baseball players of the seriousness of the widening gap between our game and its fans. Now more than ever, our sport is vulnerable. We can't afford to lose any more fans to the more high-profile, fast-paced games of professional basketball and football. Since retiring, I've come to realize that baseball fans are unique. You too have a passion, a special appreciation for all that this sport embodies. No other sport has fans attached to such a significant and rich history as baseball. No sport requires its fans to follow them and their team through a meaningful regular season just to have an opportunity to play for the championship. And no other sport has fans that depend on it to entertain them through the long, hot summer. Those who are currently enjoying the fruits of the game had best realize that the key to the game's survival is that unique bond that this game has with its fans. Hall of Famers and their teammates built the foundation upon which our game rests. And their era strengthened that special foundation and that bond between baseball and its fans. Our game has reached a crossroads. I don't believe it can survive unless the team owners and players become one. Take a look at the empty seats at every game or drive by an empty playground where kids used to be playing ball. That concerns me. And baseball, it should scare you. Just a new basic agreement will not bring the fans back. Even great baseball won't ensure their return. There must be a new level, a higher level of cooperation and understanding. We need to recapture and re-energize the spirit of baseball fans. If we make the fans number one, they will come. I'd like to challenge the players and the owners to find an independent commissioner, a commissioner who will create a more amicable relationship between players and owners, one who will reestablish a solid network baseball television contract, and one who will promote the game's current players. Hey, and don't forget these men behind me right here. These are the greatest players ever as a resource for advancing the greatness of our game. Are there any kids out there? Let's hear the kids. To the young kids out there, I want to say one thing. Never stop chasing your dreams. Your dreams are your best motivators. My career is an example of how you can beat the odds, how someone's dreams can come true. But remember this, in the final analysis, you can believe in your dreams, you can be taught, supported, motivated, and loved by others, but ultimately your success depends on you. You must take responsibility for your body, for your mind, and for your character. In closing, my family and I thank everyone associated with the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown for their hospitality. The Baseball Writers of America for your support. Of course, the Philadelphia Phillies organization and all of my teammates over the years. My fellow Hall of Famers, I tell you, that sounds good to me. Thanks for coming back to support me this year. And not just Phillies fans, but every fan out there and every fan of our great game. And I also would like to thank God for this very, very special moment. and for blessing my life in so many ways. Thank you all for coming. I'll cherish this honor forever.
Mike Schmidt calling for more positives in life, calling for Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame on a day his calling baseball brought him to Cooperstown. We're back in a minute. A reminder that ESPN Regular, the guys who thought up those four letters, they'll bring you full coverage of this Hall of Fame inductions, a recap, an interview with Mike Schmidt. That's at 6 Eastern, 3 out on the West Coast. It's been our pleasure to bring it to you live on ESPN2. The Baseball Hall of Fame inductions. Up next, Boys 19 Soccer National Championships from West Palm, Florida. And as usual, thanks for having cable.
That does it for today's adventure. If you're new here, please subscribe. Take it one step further, ring that notification bell. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a big old like and a thumbs up. It lets me know you care. I'll see you in the next video. Ride on.